That art business news versus art forum versus art news and art in America, these are parallel universes that often never intersect. So one really has to talk about what art world. I myself am more interested in a kind of a historic continuum. So when I'm dealing with a contemporary artist, I'm thinking about someone that, you stand in front of this picture or sculpture and really get awestruck by it, be humbled by it, something that'll sustain over centuries, that I would like to think will be so consequential that people 200 years from now will stand in front of it and glean the same sort of experience that I have. That's a powerful dynamic. I mean, it kind of, in some remarkable way, offers me just a tiny bit of immortality in knowing that I'm involved with something that had a life before me and will have a life after me. That's quite different than the kind of performance momentary dynamic that we see in a lot of contemporary art today.
Well, I think that there's a lot of art that deals with the moment. And one of the reasons that the art deals with the moment and is not interested in lasting is that art schools, which are very popular and have been very popular and have been very powerful and continue to be so, are populated. There's a student class and a faculty class. And the faculty class are people who have big careers or quasi-big careers, and they are interested in keeping those careers from the students. And so they're teaching the students, make inconsequential art. Make art that is about nothing.
I think you give them much too much credit.
Who?
That's what they're teaching them deliberately. I just don't think they have the ability to teach more than that.
No. Well,
There are exceptions to that, by the way. I have a huge regard and high regard for a great many art teachers and academics, but as a broader institution, I think they're the blame for the demise of art.
I have no regard for art educators. I have no regard for art institutions. I have no regard for any of the art schools.
We have to give the exception to those few. We really do.
It is almost by accident that anything good comes out of an art school in Southern California.
I don't disagree.
And the reason is the teachers are absolutely mortified about the students becoming their commercial competition. And if you can get the students focused away from making art of substance, of any high caliber quality as far as the actual craftsmanship, you can actually kill your competition before it emerges.
Oh, I think that's far too paranoid. I think it gives them much
paranoid.
I think it gives them too much credit. These teachers don't see them as competitions because.
Oh no.
No, you know why I say that? Because most of those teachers have never achieved in the broader realm other than within academia, which would be noble in and of itself. To be a great teacher is a noble
There are no great teachers in the art schools today.
Well, I don't disagree in terms of the generalization. I think there are exceptions. But there have always been those exceptions. But the academy today has been co-opted by people who have failed, and the institutions themselves are merely diploma mills on a very high level.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And we're actually in agreement. I think you go further than I do, because I still find hope in the exception.
I'm quite prepared to lead the charge to destroy the existence of these institutions, and I do believe diploma mills is a perfect example where you have every year dozens and dozens of MFAs. Do you know that
thousands?
Do you know that I ask one question every time I meet somebody who's recently graduated from a local Los Angeles art school, and I ask the same question, and I invariably get the same blank stare. I say, it's a foolish question, but it's a way to prove, to me at least, that these people have no perception or relationship to art history, and I say, what school did you go to? And they tell me whatever school they went to. I say the same thing. I say, didn't Morris Lewis go to that school? And they don't know who Morris Louis is. And Morris Louis is
Right.
he is just a major enough artist that he's in every museum collection.
Right.
And you can't avoid a Morris Louis because they're about 60 feet long and about 40 feet high. So if you don't know who Morris Louis is, you are missing a small but critical gap in the contemporary the evolution of contemporary art.
No, the contemporary realm today, and not just students, but just the art that's being made, is really a kind of a childlike version of this, a grown-up version of this childlike dynamic of look at me, look at me. They just want to be seen. It has nothing, it's kind of the difference between an actor and an actress who are so steeped in the history of theater and film versus the person that just wants to do commercials and be seen. You know, it's all fine. You know, everyone deserves a paycheck, but we can't continue to confuse the notion of people who make stuff versus artists. You know, artists and poets and writers have been the conscience of our history for a great many years, and I'm really fearful that we have destroyed an entire generation of thinkers and political and social activists who, because they've never contemplated anything but the momentary sensation, that we've been deprived in these days of the kind of dynamic that has happened in years past.
If you think too hard, though, you're saying, wait a minute, I'm paying $70,000 a year to go to this MFA program.
Well,
that's gonna. You see, they don't want you to think. They want.
That's of course the problem.
They're modeled. Graduate schools are art graduate schools. I can't speak to the business programs nor the political science programs, but they are modeled after summer camps. You show up, you get your little. You get your counselor, you do some projects, and then you go home to mom and dad who paid the bill.
Well, and they've gotten just an astounding glide on what it takes to be an artist. Today, one merely needs the curriculum and the declaration that one is an artist. They don't have to make anything. Art schools have become these centers. It's kind of social welfare for a cultural and social elite, in a sense. And, you know, you go to school and people have sold this bill of goods that the conceptual, this virtual aspect, trumps the actual. And there is nothing, you know, when you keep something as amorphous as something that's conceptual, then it's a moving target. You can never argue it, you can never challenge it. And I feel I've coined the solution. I really have the solution in this entire realm of the conceptual art world. And that is, what we really need is a museum of philosophy. And that all of these conceptualists should be placed in these halls, these institutions, these philosophical realms, and the vacuum of their ideas will implode to where what we actually see is who is left standing, and profundity will reign. But it's just too easy an out today, and curators and museums are all product of the academy. They're all, you know, the way I see curators today is the way they curate oftentimes in terms of contemporary art work is like this. They're looking over their shoulder. Who should they be looking at? You know, I would love to see the conviction and backbone of a curator who has a sustaining interest in an artist. But they're involved in show business. They are doing the show. It happens. It moves on. They're on to the next. You know, a dealer like myself, we make, in the ideal, we make a commitment. We say, this is what I'm interested in, and we sustain that idea for a very, very long time. The artists that I represent, I've represented for 20-plus years. Those artists found home, and I've found home in their work, and that's a commitment. You rise and fall on that. You rise and fall on that, you know. And that's something that is lacking in this city. In this city, you have galleries and artists, and these galleries are mere stepping stones. They're not the places that artists want to end up in. They are places that they want to emerge from. And that is a problem in and of itself. It's partly because nothing has importance in a city where everything is as ephemeral. Nothing is important here, and particularly our history. You know, LA has, and I think you have to talk about history.